it seems like the party shouldn't stop. You know, you got, it seems like you should still be celebrating really until something, if the team goes off track. But even if it goes off track, it should be easy to get it back on track. But again, to get to that question, how was the difference between the Jameis years and what took place last season?
Yeah, it has been completely different. But I think what was so satisfying was just how validating and almost vindicating it was, because the storylines were the 30 for 30 and all that kind of stuff. But the amount of guys that went under the radar because of it was criminal to me, just because I knew these guys, I knew what they were capable of. I knew the talent that was on this team. And you say that and you hear that from all these teams that do have losing records or whatever. But that's the reality, is not everybody on the roster is bad, just like not everybody on the roster is like fantastic. So I was just really excited to see a bunch of our guys kind of get the recognition they deserve, one being Lavonte David, of course. I'm the biggest proponent of Lavonte, and I kind of lead the charge every year for his accolades and his recognition of Pro Bowls, All Pros. The man has not had enough of them because he's been on losing teams. And now it's nice to see guys like that getting the recognition. So last year was the storylines come to you. Let me tell you, like it made me a better journalist working for a team that went back to back 5 and 11 years. Even, Bruce's first year, we were 7 and 9. And it makes you a better journalist because you have to figure out what to write and how to kind of toe that line a little bit more. But yeah, this year I was like, I couldn't keep up with how many things that we had to write about.
Yes, it's definitely nice. I'm envious. I hope one day back here at home that we're in that situation where, of course the teams win, because a lot of people think people in the media want the team to suck. But when the team's doing well, it's better for everyone. It's so the story
easier.
Writes itself. Yeah, the story writes. Which you talked about the players, and I agree with you, because when Tom Brady chose the Bucs, to me it made common sense, because it was basically like ready-made, just throw the quarterback in the middle of it. There was talent. I think if you know football, there was talents galore around on that team. You just needed someone to steady the ship. There? Some people have the train of thought, Carmen, that if you don't make any adjustments and you standing still, not necessarily just a step back, but you're still not taking the next step. Is there any fear of that with bringing back 22 starters, both on the offensive, defensive side?
Honestly, to be quite honest, I had almost the same thought process, because the NFL stresses, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, right? It's like that Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. And I think that there is some credence to that, but I also don't think that happens on a team that has Tom Brady at quarterback. He is the last guy to repeat as champions. And I just think that he brings an accountability and a motivation to this team that, I think the danger of that is that you rest on your laurels, right? And you think, oh, well, I was this good last year, so I don't have to change anything. That's not the attitude on this team at all. And that's very apparent. And especially because these guys weren't playing their best football the entire season. It took them until the team's bye week in week 13 to really click on offense. And I just remember there's this quote where Tom Brady is walking off the field with Devin White from the NFC Championship game after winning in Green Bay. And they're just going, we haven't even played our best football yet. And that's kind of true in a lot of ways, because they had just started to gel. And so if they can pick up where they left off, they still have not reached their ceiling. So I think that, when you make it to the top mountaintop, you think, all right, that's as good as it gets. But this team knows that they've got more in them. And that's why I don't really feel like it's a danger for this team in particular. Although I do subscribe to that, where you always want to try to get better.
That Davis Show. Right now we have Carmen Vitali, a staff writer for the Bucs, joining us. Let me ask you this, and sticking with the offense, it's important since you brought up that bye week and what took place. With having an actual preseason and a training camp ran not regularly due to COVID, but at least it's closer to what it was pre-pandemic. How do you think this offense is going to look now with that time to adjust now? Is it going to be more of a New England or more risk it, no biscuit? What do you think the offense is going to look like?
Well, I think it's a marriage of the two, and to marry two totally polar opposite systems is no easy task, and that's why it took so long last year. And I think you're going to see more of that this year. There's no way that Bruce gives up his no risk it, no biscuit type mentality, but there are ways to marry the two together, and I think that that's what you're going to end up seeing. And at the end of the day, Bruce is very amenable to what his quarterbacks want to do. He knows that quarterbacks aren't going to want to run plays that they don't like. So quarterbacks are very involved in game planning on this offense, and Tom Brady is obviously no exception. He might be the most involved in game planning just because of his experience and because of the system he came from, and meshing that with the ideals and concepts that Bruce Arians likes to run as well. But let me tell you, I mean, we've seen Brady throw deep all last year, way more than I feel like we had in recent years. He's not slowing down. We've seen him in camp do the exact same thing at 44 years old, which is incredible. So he still has the talent to do it and the talent to execute a Bruce Arians offense. So he's going to do it. He's still going to do it. You're still going to see those fun deep shots and all that.
I'm jealous. All right.
No.
In your opinion, I am. I mean, it's hurtful. I mean, at least, you know, during the preview for this show, going from division to division, no one kind of knows my angst. So to find out that you feel this, well, you felt this pain, I should say. I
have.
You felt it. I at least know that. How would you, in your opinion, how would you describe the relationship between Bruce Arians and Tom Brady?
They're so much fun together. Honestly, they feed off each other so well. Bruce is just like, he really lets his quarterbacks do what they're there to do. And he wants to make sure that he's getting the best out of them, but that they're having input on everything. So it's a give and take. You'll hear Bruce say that all the time. But I really think, I mean, you can see how much Tom Brady has kind of loosened up a little bit. I feel like that's always been a big storyline, although I'm not sure that this wasn't always here with him. I just don't know that he was given the platform to express it from his head coach. And we all know Bruce. He pulls no punches and he tells it like it is. And that's kind of how everyone follows suit on this team. And so you see that between Bruce and you see that with Brady. And I mean, it's with that entire quarterback room and the quarterback coaches. I mean, this team is just so set up. We drafted Kyle Trask in the second round, and I just don't know a better situation for a young quarterback to come in, not only because of Tom Brady, but you've got Bruce Arians, the quarterback whisperer. You have Byron Leftwich, who's a longtime quarterback in this league, Clyde Christensen, who's coached guys like Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck. You know, the amount of offensive firepower is just crazy in that room in general. So it's really cool to see them all feed off of each other and kind of come up with things together.
It must really be nice. It sounds like it's really nice how you just broke that down.
Listen, I didn't know what quarterbacking was until I got here. I promise.
It sounds fantastic, Carmen. Like, you know, this Byron Leftwich, like, I mean, sounds fantastic. Look, on a side note, this just popped out into my head with Bruce. Recently, when I've seen Bruce Arians, I haven't seen the Kanga. Where's the Kanga at? Especially being a man of color, you know, we have an affinity for Kangos. Where is his Kangos?
Yeah, he switches it in and out now with he's got his baseball caps too. He's a man of many styles. He's the swaggiest coach in the NFL, and I maintain that. So trust me, he gets his fits off. And everyone has their look at practice, though. I feel like every coach has their look at practice. And Bruce is actually at practice is actually usually a ball cap more than it is the Kangol. But trust me when I say he brings out the Kangol for all the special occasions, like our ring ceremony, everything like that. He's wearing that with a 3-piece suit, and he looks swagged out. This man he knows what he's doing.
Okay. So listen. Do these two, Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, ride off together? How long do you expect for this to continue? And also, when Bruce Arians retires, is this Todd Bowles' job?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's definitely it makes sense. Like if you were to kind of hand this team back over, I mean, we are also so lucky on this coaching staff to have two head coaches. I mean, Todd Bowles was a head coach for 4 seasons, so. Like having that built in is a really interesting prospect. And again, that would be something very unique in this league to see that change of the guard happen. But I'm not sure, it's really interesting because Brady was like, oh, I want to play till I'm 25 or 45. I'm like, he looks 25. I want to play till I'm 45. That's next year. And he doesn't show any signs of slowing down this year. And I'm like, if the Bucs win the Super Bowl again, do you ride out on top like that? I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But like, I'm telling you what, like you look at this guy and you're like, you're not 44. Like you're just not. And Bruce is the same way where he's just, I mean, he gets fired up. We've seen him in these preseason games already, just biting refs' heads off. He's in midseason form already. So like this guy and he's really, really well set up when it comes to speaking of those coordinators, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich. I mean, Byron Leftwich is the play caller on the offense. Bruce doesn't have that pressure on him. He doesn't have that stress on him, I should say. So he's got it pretty good. right now, where he kind of commands the ship, but he doesn't have to take the day-to-day beating. And that's the reason he doesn't call plays, is because the stress was getting too much. So, I mean, between the two of them, I don't know. I feel like as long as Tom Brady plays, Bruce will coach, and maybe vice versa. I'm not totally sure, but you do have a very more than viable option waiting in the wings to take over should that be the case.